Toohey joins us from the Show Me Institute. Show Me Institute checks in every Monday. Director of Municipal Policy at the Show Me Institute. Good morning, Patrick Toohey.
Good morning. How are you?
We're doing well. Thanks for checking in. The Historic Tax Credit Program. Looks like they might be capping this thing. What's going on?
Well, it's a matter of Missouri has a very generous historic tax credit program. I think if we're not the number one in the country, we're up there, and we're in a fiscal bind. We just don't have the money to be doling out, and of course we get caught up in, gosh, should we be preserving our history? But the standards of this program are much weaker than people think. There's a building here in Kansas City. It's referred to as the Flash Cube because it is a glass cube. Now, your younger listeners won't know what a Flash Cube is, but the older people will know what that refers to. And it was built in 1973, and it's getting historic tax credits because it seems sometimes with these tax credits, nobody's manning the store.
Yeah, but lots of people are getting tax credits. Walmart's getting tax credits. We've got big developers getting tax credits. So why can't people who are trying to save a building get a tax credit?
Well, you're absolutely right. Far too many people are getting them, and they're getting them much too easily. They're getting them when they really don't need them. But I don't think your argument is that, hey, because we're wasting money on a few people, we should waste it on a lot.
Yeah. So what do they want to do? They want to cap it, right?
Right, they want to cap it. We've got a tax credit problem in Missouri. Low-income tax credits have been shown by Republicans and Democrats in the auditor's office to be largely a waste of effort, a waste of money. The tax credits we give out to build an ice rink in and around St. Louis are wasted, and so we've just got to start reining it in. And so this is part of a bigger effort on tax reform to make sure that the tax policy is fair and equal, and that a few people aren't able to cut special deals for themselves.
Washington Avenue in downtown St. Louis never would have been renovated the way it is except for the tax credits. And the argument is, Patrick Toohey, is that to redo those buildings, it costs more money than to build new. And so we need a little more incentive, a little more cushion there. And the tax credits help get us over the hump because it costs more to redevelop. And so the argument is if those tax credits weren't there, Washington Avenue would remain Skid Row.
Well, you're absolutely right. That is the argument, and we hear it in almost every kind of handout program. And my response is, all right, I will grant to you that maybe some programs legitimately need incentives, whether it's TIF or tax credits or abatements. The problem is, because our standards for determining who gets them are so low, we can't tell at the beginning of a process if it's worthwhile. And the data shows us that we're largely wasting our money. If we had a way of saying this one is worthy and that one is not, and we stuck to that, we might be in a much better position. But again, we just throw money at everybody who shows up asking for it. And again, you can cherry pick the very good projects, and I can cherry pick the bad projects. I'm confident there are more bad than there are good. But if we're going to maintain this program, we have got to clean it up.
How much of this is the smaller developer is going to be hurt more by this than the big developer, right? The big developer can get the TIFs from the local communities, and this state program helps the smaller developer. So in a sense, you're killing the smaller developer in favor of the bigger developer who is going to remain to get all the tax credits.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't know the answer, but I think a lot of times, you'll recall when Missouri was debating a tobacco tax a few years ago, it turned out the supporters of the tax were actually the big tobacco companies because they knew that the smaller competition couldn't bear the increase in cost. And so it may very well be the same thing with developers. But I think we do need to look at this, and we need to curtail it. We're doing a paper here at the Show Me Institute looking at the award of TIF projects and political contributions made by the developers. And you will be shocked to learn that there is a correlation between the two. And so I think what we need to do in Missouri is tighten up our definitions and be a little bit more discerning in who we give money to.
Say that again. You're doing a study on what now?
So we looked at the award of TIF subsidies in cities, and then we looked at Missouri Ethics Commission data, and we found, this won't surprise you, that there is a positive correlation between political contributions to city leaders and to the award of TIF subsidies to those same developers.
Right, yeah. Shocking.
Right, exactly.
In theory, I agree with you. In theory, it makes a lot of sense. It's a very tough call because...
No, it is. It is, and that's why, and I'll grant that. And that's why these programs sound great, right? Because, like, who doesn't want to preserve our history? Who doesn't want to renovate older neighborhoods that have so much character? But when we actually set up these programs, there are huge loopholes. You know, where was I in St. Louis just the other day? It was an article in the Riverfront Times about this small neighborhood, South County, that's kind of revitalizing itself. And I want to say it's Cherokee Avenue.
Okay, yeah, right.
It's a charming little area.
Right.
It's got all the atmosphere you'd want, and it's redeveloping slowly with people's own money and hard work, and that's what you want. But too often we set up these rules that mean well, but just allow people to come in and take a lot of taxpayers.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to set up a commission to sort of grant these, right? Because then you have a governmental entity picking winners and losers. But when the city of St. Louis's biggest problem is blight and these buildings, either tear them down or fix them up. But, you know, having these burned out buildings as you drive from the airport to downtown isn't helping anybody. No,
but we're putting all our development subsidies into the Central West End. That arguably doesn't need subsidies.
Yeah, no, it's a very tough issue. But you're saying that it looks like there's momentum to cap it. Then
we'll see what happens. But I think from low-income tax credits to historic tax credits, capping it and reforming the program so that the worthwhile projects get help. And the very many others don't.
It's a great point. The Central West End is getting a lot of tax subsidies, but the drive on Highway 70 to downtown isn't getting any. And so those houses remain blighted, while the Central West End, you could argue, is the place that needs it the least, is getting it. No,
that's exactly right. There's an awful lot of money there. It doesn't need government subsidy.
Yeah. Patrick Tuohy, Director of Policy at the Show Me Institute. Patrick, thanks for checking in.
Thanks so much.